This week, we're helping our client pick out the perfect first Patek Philippe. Hey everybody, Adam here from Mento Watches. Welcome back to the channel. This week we get to sit down with a friend of mine, Mr. Matthew McKenna of Imperial Moto. He's looking to get into his first Patek Philippe and he's narrowed his focus down to the Aquanaut. So we sat down to show him a couple different choices. Let's take a look. Matt, my friend.
Hey, how you doing?
See you, brother.
Good to see you.
Thanks for sitting down with us. Look at some watches.
You know, it's about time.
It's about time. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so.
Yeah. Well, before we get started, Adam, I just wanted to give you our Cafe Racer blend.
New gift?
Yeah, new gift.
New roast. The best coffee in Miami. All right, enough of the Wayne's World jokes. No, but thank you very much. I will try it on my new fancy coffee machine at home.
Yes.
I know you can travel like the globe looking for these like crazy coffee beans and everything, so I'm sure it'll be delicious. Golden rum, blackberry chocolate, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into the watches, Matt is looking to get into his very first Patek, most likely an Aquanaut, so I brought him a few options to go through. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about his collecting journey before we see the actual watches, because you know, we've been friends for a few years now, and based on your tattoos and what I know in your collection, you've gone through the cycles, which is awesome. So how did you get started? I think we should start with, I've seen this watch before. Tell us a little bit about it, because I know it's the brand that kicked it off for you.
So yeah, I think I was probably like 11 or 12 years old, and my father, who was an entrepreneur, came home with this watch.
Right.
You know, this beautiful gold and stainless watch from Omega, and I was just, you know, I think he paid like something like $1,500.
Really?
Or something
much?
For the watch. And I thought it was like, oh my God, it's like a
lot of money.
lot of money.
Right.
You know, for a kid. And my father wore this watch every day of his life. And let me tell you, God rest his soul, you know, even right before he passed away, he asked me, my watch okay? You know, where's my watch?
So it's a special watch to you.
It's a very special watch. It's an Omega Constellation. And
so that's circa like 1980s, right?
yeah, circa like 1980s. And, you know, of course I sent it off and had it all refinished and restored. And I kind of wish I didn't,
Right.
actually, at this point, because it's essentially like a brand new watch now. But he would have appreciated the care that went into it. So yeah, this was the first watch in my Omega collection.
I was just gonna say, so is that what kicked off your like fervor for Omega? Because you used to have, I mean, when we first met, I think you had like 10 Omegas. You know?
I mean, I was definitely kicked off my first, you know, watch as a young, you know, entrepreneur was the Seamaster 300. You know, the James Bond, of course.
Right.
Made very popular. I even have an Omega tattoo on my arm, and you know, I went down the rabbit hole with Omega.
Right.
And then I think you know the story, not to throw anybody under the bus, but you know, when the Snoopy came out.
The most recent one.
Yeah, and I didn't get an allocation for this watch, and I got a little like, okay, I'm gonna try out some other watch brands, and that's when I started going down the Rolex.
Which is crazy to me, because
Rabbit hole.
you really had a box full of modern Omegas, and I know plenty of Omega collectors, but it's usually a little bit of vintage, a little bit of modern. You were a great client for them, so you absolutely should have gotten one of those allocations. I mean, heck, even I got an allocation, but I'd only bought like a couple watches from them prior, but I like begged them as soon as it came out. I gave them the 50% deposit. And I think I was like one of the first like batch of 3 months deliveries, and I kept that watch for a while. I know I'm a dealer, but I kept that watch for a long time, watched the prices steadily decline, eventually sold it, but you know, it was a great watch. So then we got you into Rolex. Your first Rolex, I think we got you, was a Kermit, right?
I think it was a GMT.
GMT. Yeah, it was all black.
All black.
All black.
GMT.
116710 LN. All black GMT. And then you've had a few other things, Kermit, some Mariners, etc. You're wearing right now what?
That's a new Sub 41.
Sub 41.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, I just a really great daily watch.
Right.
You know.
So then the segue into what we're going to be looking for now was your most recent acquisition, which is...
So that's you know, I waited a long time, and on February 22nd of 22.
That's oddly specific.
22.
Oddly specific.
2/2/22.
You remember your kids' birthdays, or is it just when you get the watch?
When I got the watch. So on 2/2/22, I was able to acquire this from the boutique. You know, my first Royal Oak. This is the 15500 gray dial.
41 millimeter, right?
41 millimeter gray dial, and it's just a gorgeous timepiece.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first watch I brought you, which I know is not what you're looking for, but I remember we've been talking, you're like, yeah, I love it, but sometimes it feels a little bulky. Something to consider should you ever want to sell that in the future and go a little more vintage is I brought the very first reference Royal Oak, which is my favorite Genta design, reference 5402 in stainless steel. This one is an A series, so they made it A, B, C, D series, A being the earliest production, so 1972, 1973, in a batch of 2,000 pieces. And this is where it all started. The original jumbo Royal Oak, 39 millimeters, so it's a little bit smaller, but for me, this is like the perfect daily wear watch in terms of a Royal Oak.
Yeah.
Because even though the 15202, which is essentially the modern version of this now, the 16202, is a beefier, upgraded version of this, for me, these still are just so magical because of the patina on the dial, the way they wear, the bracelets are a little lighter, they're a little thinner. You know, obviously it's not as sturdy of a watch mechanically, you know, it's prone to error more, but in terms of the way it feels on your wrist and the sensation you get from it, there's nothing like it. I've owned so many and it's my favorite watch. Now, yeah, I was gonna say, might need to add some links for you, got a big wrist.
Yeah.
But at least you get to see it. I have some links for it though, if that's something you wanted to go for in the future.
Beautiful.
But I know it's not what we discussed you buying, so I just wanted you to see it. Because I don't think you've ever seen one in person.
Gorgeous.
But it's literally the OG of the 15500. It's where the 15500 came from, you know, the very first reference.
And, you know, I love that a lot of the modern watches now are going back to this sort of tapered design.
Right.
Right. It's really.
Yeah, I mean, but even if you hold up the bracelet side by side, see how much thinner these links are. And while I appreciate the modern Royal Oaks, they feel like a bulky watch.
It's a
heavy. And when you wear those, it's like a cloud on your wrist in terms of like an all steel watch, sports watch that has a big size. Like sometimes I'll be wearing it, I won't even notice that it's on my wrist, kind of thing, you know. But for me, these are Genta's best design. What could go back and forth between the Nautilus and the Royal Oak, but I love the.
What year did they start doing a display back?
I think it might have been the 14802. I'll have to look into that. I'll text you. I'll let you know. It's a good question, but not till later on. The vintage models through 70s, 80s didn't have them.
Yeah.
Same with what we're going to be talking about now, the Aquanaut. The Aquanaut started at the end of the 90s. I think Patek was looking to make something that like the Nautilus wasn't, you know, a tropical bracelet, which is their rubber bracelet, a little more sporty, a little easier, more accessible. It was right at a time when they had the .com boom and all these people on Wall Street and everybody looking to spend a little bit of money, but they didn't want a Calatrava. Maybe they couldn't afford a Nautilus, you know, so it was a little bit cheaper price point. The first reference Aquanaut was a 36 millimeter watch, 5066 with a closed back, and then they moved to the open back. The reference that came right out like a year, I think, after, or 6 months after the 5066 was this guy. And I wanted you to see them side by side. This is the original jumbo Aquanaut, reference 5065A. I took links off so I could wear it, so you might not be able to put it on your wrist, but it's 38 millimeters, whereas the newer reference, which I brought you to see as well, because I know you were talking about the newer reference 5167, is 41 millimeters, or 42, excuse me. For me, that's the perfect size.
Wow.
And what you get with the, you know, original version is you still get, they made two different dials. The earliest ones had tritium dials, so you get that nice yellow patina with that vintage feel. And then they transitioned into luminova dials, so you no longer get that. They look green, which I don't really love, but they are cheaper if you wanted a 5065 at a cheaper price point.
This is beautiful.
The worst part about that watch, though, is the bracelet. I don't know what they were thinking with that bracelet. It's fun. You put it on a rubber bracelet. It's kind of clunky and weird. It's not tapered. It's the way the links fold is very strange.
Yeah, it's a little.
Surprisingly, it's not a very popular bracelet, but they sell for good money on the open market because people like to have it for completeness sake. But I never see anybody wearing it on this bracelet. It's always on the strap. And usually people get like a green strap or a gray strap. And at least with the 5065 reference, you could still order the straps from Patek, even the green ones. Whereas this reference, the green strap for a 5167, the more modern reference, they discontinued them and they sell for thousands of dollars in the open market. So
this is a 5167.
This is the one 5167, the one that we had talked about.
Yeah, this is.
And look, you can't really go wrong with either version. That's just essentially an upgraded version. You know, both guilloche dials, very similar layout, applied markers, same handset style, same case. You know, it's really, in essence, what the Royal Oak is, you know, from the 5402 to the 15500. An upgraded movement, a little bit bigger of a case, etc. That strap's cut, so it might not fit you. There you go, tight. But you could order straps for those. But yeah, so it just depends on what you're comfortable with size-wise, and obviously, you could go swimming with either of these watches, but I'd feel more comfortable with that watch because it's newer gaskets.
This really does feel good.
Yeah.
It just feels
Those
good.
watches, those rubber straps are so comfortable. Like for me, for example, the newer Oyster Flex watches from Rolex, I can't wear those straps. The fins in the back bother me. Those straps are perfect, absolutely perfect. And I think that's why you see most people wearing them on rubber strap versus bracelet.
Beautiful.
And this reference in particular is very popular, surprisingly, amongst musicians. You have guys like Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, Pete Wentz, all these guys wearing this model, and I think it's because of the size. It's not as big and obtrusive, but it's still a jumbo size. So I think these are perfect starter Pateks for you in terms of like what you're looking to do, because I know you don't want to go too classy with like a Calatrava. I was going to bring a couple other models just for you to see, annual calendar or stuff like that, but I know you've had your heart set on an Aquanaut, so I want to give you some food for thought.
It is, a lot of food to digest here. A lot of food to digest.
Yeah.
So, circling back though on my Omega experience, I love those guys.
Right.
Yeah, we actually, they were sponsoring a car rally that we had here.
What'd you guys have here?
Sunday morning. We had 14 cars. Our friend Phil organized this car rally, 100 miles.
Okay,
that started here and ended in the Design District, and they hosted us at their boutique. So
100 miles to the Design District? It's like 5 miles down the road.
We went South Beach. We went to the stadium. We had to go out west. It was
nice.
It was called the Miami.
Thanks for inviting me.
That you're invited.
For next time, right? Dude, and by the way,
always a pleasure.
Space here. I know you opened one in Aventura at the mall as well, but like for me, this is the OG location.
Thank you.
And it is the coolest coffee shop. And I'm not just saying this because he's sitting right next to me. They actually in-house make the best coffee in Miami. I go out of my way to come here after the gym just to get a cappuccino because it is the best coffee. At least the people working here make a great coffee.
Yeah, they know what we know what we're doing.
They know what they're doing. So I'm excited to try this and see if I can kind of replicate that at home. Yeah. But honestly, the coolest space, the coolest coffee shop, at least in the country.
Holding fast since 2016.
Yeah, and you guys supply coffee to all over Miami, like restaurants and stuff like that too. Right?
Yeah, so Joe's Stone Crab, Los Felix, Mignonette Blue Collar, Naturel,
Nice.
And more to come.
More to come. Yeah. Well, congrats on your success, man. And swing by the office, and we'll figure out what we could do on an Aquanaut once you decide.
I appreciate it,
dude.
Thanks.
Well, that's it for this week's episode, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We hope Matt is able to make a decision and the right decision for him on his Aquanaut, and we look forward to help him. As always, you could follow him on social media. We will link his information below. He sells some amazing coffee that's supplied to a lot of the restaurants here in South Florida, so give it a try. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Anything you can do to help us grow the channel. As always, thanks again, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.